and gentlemen, we are back for another GAC round. Let's go ahead and get into this. This is our first match of the last week. We are already kind of in the green here. We've already won 6 matches, so while I really don't want to go 0-3, even if we do, we're still on track to not be falling behind. We actually should be going up quite a bit considering we won a lot in the beginning and we're starting to lose here towards the end. This is our opponent. His name's Darth Prizzo. He is from Maul, so should be a very good opponent. He has a little low legacy lifetime banners, like not embarrassing low, but like that's not 1 million like a lot of the opponents we've been facing. He has a really interesting roster. So I don't know if he just cares a lot about CW. So obviously he has a lot of the endgame stuff. He's got all the Galactic Legends, you know, half of them are R9. This is starting to become just a pattern now. One thing that is really interesting about this guy, and we'll go ahead and pull this up. So this is our opponent. Not a single GAC Omicron. Not a single one. Which is weird. Like, look at... This is funny, actually. Look at this guy next to him. He's got 10. He's got 10. Like, there's someone... I have 5, which I guess that's balanced now. But like, his... Yeah, it's really weird that he has 0. But overall, I mean, his roster still is quite a bit better than ours. He has almost 400 relics. He has more Zetas. He has more 6 dots. We have similar speed mods, I guess, but yeah, just weird. 0 GAC Omicron. So like, I've heard the argument, like the rewards don't really get better as long as you're going 6-6. And while it's true, like that's just not fun. Like, I can understand like prioritizing CW and like getting most of CWs, but like, man, like get a Wampa or get a Qui-Gon. Like those are fun. But yeah, so that's pretty much our opponent. Let's go ahead and get to the board, see what he set for us, see what we set for him. Oh, that went too far out. Hate it when it does that. All right. So he typically doesn't attack to the last 6 hours. Oh, I spoke way too soon. Wow. Okay, this is interesting. Yeah. According to his report, he typically waits the last 6 hours, but he's already taken out 2 teams. Interesting. Okay. All right. So our goal here is pretty much the same as last week. I need to. Realistically, my defense is not going to change until the opponents we start fighting are different, or my roster changes significantly. Basically, it's JMK in the very back, some squads to try to pull out maybe his JMK counter, but I'm really not committing a lot here. Like, if I really wanted to pull JMK, I would need something heavier. Like, I would need Galactic Legends in the front, which I just can't afford to take them. I just can't afford to put that many on defense. Oh. Okay, cool. All right, so that's good. That's really good. Oh, wow. Okay, cool. So then my teams up there are pretty much the same. And then one thing that I do need to note that I'm doing differently this round is we're putting Negotiator levels at defense. This is very, very different from what we've done before. And basically the thought process behind here is now this opponent always takes Executor on offense, and he has an R9, so it's kind of pointless to put mine on defense. And I really want to try out a full Empire team with the new TIE Interceptor. So that's the thought process there. Hopefully we'll get to do that. And then he put down Lord Vader and Rey, which is cool. Then we have these 2 teams to get through. And I think we're going to use Wampa here. The only slight issue I think we might have with Wampa is Stark gives a certain amount of armor penetration, like quite a bit. And Wampa's new Omicron relies a lot on a, frankly, just stupid amount high up defense. So we'll see if that has any big effect. And then, like, these teams are just old. Like, the relic levels are obviously very good, but this level of squads is like 2019, buddy. Like, these are old squads. And without any Omicrons to refresh them, he sort of dropped a battle. Yeah, I think we might win this one. I'm fairly optimistic as long as I don't do anything stupid. I think we'll be okay. But all right, let's go ahead and get to the battles. All right, let's go ahead and get to these matches. We've got Wampa versus Iden first, and this one, like I said, was looking just a tad bit sketchy here because of Stark. He adds defense penetration is unique to all the troopers, but I wasn't really sure if that was just going to be enough to let them slaughter me, and as you can see, we're doing okay. One of the things that does help is that this Iden does not have the Omicron, which you probably figured out by the fact that our counters slaughtered them, when usually that should be healing them by quite a bit. So that is very nice, because that allows us to kill them quicker, and when they die quicker, they don't get to stack as much offense. So, like I said before, I think this is really coming into its own as a counter. I think there is some potential for Iden to win this if you have the full offensive comp. So Iden, range, Stark, kind of like what was here, and then Snow and Death. So instead of Magma having Death Trooper here, at higher relics, I think that would do really well, because we almost dipped into our protection, and they had relatively low relics and no death. So I think if they made those two changes, it would probably do a little bit better. So now we have SLKR versus Lord Vader. This is a pretty standard comp we've always used. They put Darth Vader and Thrawn in there, so it does become a little bit sketchier. So we definitely had to take both Watt as well as Daka. So we take them in. Again, this counter is very standard for us at this point. We try to minimize our hits on the enemy team, trying to heal every time with Daka. Get the tank tech onto SLKR, get the med pack onto the Daka. We actually did something kind of different this time. Not really that big of a deal, but we put the blast tech on Zombie. The reason for that is if she gains turn meter, she loses health and protection. She loses health and protection. She dies when Thrawn goes to fraction her. So that's really the idea there. We were trying to essentially kill her faster, and we kept putting it on. But ultimately, Zombie's just not taking turns to get rid of the dots. Really, there's no way of getting rid of the dots in general. So Watt kind of eats it there, at least temporarily. Zombie's starting to get really, really weak. We get Watt back, so that's pretty cool. I feel like we've had pretty consistent assists there. Now, couldn't see it there because it glitched out, but Thrawn went into Fracture Zombie, couldn't do anything because she died. And then Vader actually killed Daka, which is super sketchy. Luckily, it wasn't during Lord Vader's ult, so everything is fine. We were able to get the med pack back on her. She was able to use the revive from Zombie, and we go from there. And at this point, Zombie is falling over at literally everything. We just decided to not try to play around with the blast tech on Zombie trick. We're really just trying to keep Watt alive, so we went ahead and cleared the dots on him. They do get their ultimate, but at this point, we're getting ultimate back-to-back, which just kind of lets us level the entire team. We do make sure before we go ahead and start swiping on Royal Guard, we make sure to stun him so that we get twice the amount of our mastery, or twice the amount of siphon, which gives mastery, rather. And at this point, there's really nothing they can do. I mean, the only hope the enemy team has at this point is a timeout. We're trying to move pretty quick, specifically so that doesn't happen. Trying to minimize the hits on Lord Vader, just keep cycling through the specials. Really not a lot to say on this one. It's just going to run because it's going to run. Yep. I think he ends up getting in one last AoE right before I want him to, and that's kind of a pain in the butt, because then we end up losing a little bit of protection banners there, but it's fine. Yeah, it's in here. He'll come in, he'll do that. Watt dips below full health, and then we just happen to kill him the next turn. So 62 there, I'll take it. And then he put down his R9 Ray with JTR and Bro. So if this was a tighter match, I would have wanted to use C here. But in order to use C reliably against this team, you really need to have a full team so that JTR doesn't land the healing immunity at a not great time. So I didn't really want to do that with banners, and knowing what this guy usually does, he doesn't usually leave anything heavier behind Ray. So my main reason for keeping JML would have specifically been if there's something else in the back that C can't beat, namely JMK. JMK was really the big concern, but his history never showed him ever going against JMK or never putting JMK down. So we just kind of risked it. We went and went with a more solid team that would give better banners, and you can see at this point, we've already got Ray into damage immunity at 1 point, so she'll be ready to kill. So we're just really trying to get our protection back. We go ahead and swap stances with... Oh, we do that later, I guess. Yeah, we're just trying to get our protection back, and we know that we can use all of our specials, because when Jedi Master Luke procs his ult, we get all the specials back anyways, and then we can use them again. Mainly Hoda and Shock's heal. Huge misplay here. We go ahead... Actually, not quite. It looks like we did end up doing it later. So now we have healing immunity on JML, which isn't super great, because that's not how you get back banners. And yeah, we just go in through here. We're just trying to get JTR out, and now it's just full-on banner recovery mode. This was really dumb. We tried to heal JML when he had healing immunity, so that was essentially wasted, but it doesn't really end up being that big of a deal. Because you'll see here, the only character at the end of this that we don't get full banners on is JML, and he was the one with healing immunity. So just keep on calling in Hoda, keep trying to spread the protection around, use his own basic when it's his turn, and then when it's time to kill BB-8, we just kind of do it. So 64 there as well against the two GLs, that's pretty good. We get to the back wall. Luckily, there's no JMK back there. If there was, we'd probably just be screwed. And now we go ahead and take in our Gear 11, Gear 12 Iden versus this Mon Mothma team. They actually had a really, really well modded team. I think better modded than most of the teams we fought. And this did make it a little bit complicated because they got to get going in the very beginning. Kara was able to land her 5-turn stun pretty much just like a turn. That typically never happens. At least that hasn't happened to us. So it does get a little bit sketchy in there at the beginning. Luckily, Kyle was nice enough to use his really big hit on the one character that had a revive. I don't know if he would have been able to one-shot Snow, because really the reason why we're able to survive and do this at such stupid gear levels is because they're constantly assisting and dealing no damage. But the one hit this team has that starts first that isn't necessarily an assist and hits really hard is Kyle Katarn's Saber Throw. Kyle Katarn's Saber Throw can do a lot of damage. It's really the main thing they have. So that was lucky in the beginning. And at this point, it's really just a waiting game. You can't, if you're doing this at a gear advantage, you can't really take your time. You have to kind of move quickly for the stacking offense to really take in an effect here. Because if not, you can't time out. I know a lot of people have been saying they've been timing out with bigs in there against good teams, but yeah, and we haven't gotten to kill anyone or get anyone off the board yet, which is a little bit of a pain in the butt because Death Mark is the easiest way to kill someone once someone's off the board. So we're able to land the Death Mark, and thank God Mon Mothma didn't immediately cleanse it, because that's happened to us a few times. So now Kara's dead, and Kyle Katarn is permanently dead. Now Pal's dead too, so even if they get a revive, they're still going to only have 3 or 4 characters in the field. All we have to do is kill Hot Rebel Soldier there. Just keep throwing our AoEs for fun. Just kind of letting this run its natural course, and we get, again, 64 banners. So his back wall is a little underwhelming. We still have a GL. We're just trying to figure out what is a good match here. What is going to profit us the most banners. And GG seems to be the team here that is going to have the most banners for us to work against. So we immediately take in our Jedi Knight Revan versus him. It's it's an older counter, but it checks out. It is going to work pretty well here. And unfortunately, it looks like I didn't get the actual coordinate, but we used our Bad Batch on his first order on the opening lineup just to kind of get through that wall. That fight is about as simple as they come, though. You just end up using the advantage that Hux gives them in the beginning to get speed, and then you destroy them. They really can't do anything about it. Yeah, this fight, I mean, it goes about as well as you think it would. We cut down B2 immediately. Was kind of dumb here. I shouldn't have hit GG trying to ability block him, because that put him under his protection. And then we get stuck behind Magna, whereas we could have gotten in some nice hits on B1 so that he wasn't doing as much damage. But I mean, at the end of the day, this counter, I mean, it's very, very reliable, but it's not always the best banners. So we end up getting our second mark around. We end up being able to go right on GG, and we pretty much just kill him, which is nice. Now he's dead. It's just banner recovery, but it's really hard to recover banner recovery because, I mean, B1 is literally just paper. You slice right through him, so there's not a whole lot of opportunity to just, not like there's a nest there where we can just beat him up for a few minutes, or beat her up for a few minutes so we can get all our protection back. But right now I'm checking everyone's protection because I know we only have maybe 2 or 3 assists before this is game over. We're just trying to see who's closest so that we can give the protection to them. Ended up being JMY. Got 63. That's okay. He put his bounty hunters down, and like we had seen before, he doesn't have any Omicrons. So this was actually kind of depressing. The speeds on this team were really, really good. Like, boss was 330 speed. I mean, mine's not the best, but it's at 306 speed, like 306 speed. Like, it's so much incredibly lower. But since they didn't have the Omicron, our lower geared, not poorly modded, but not modded as well as theirs, we just tore them apart. Like, I think they get 1 turn here. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. So, damn, Omicron's pretty good, guys. We take in CLS here versus Nute. We were just trying to ration out our teams, trying to make sure we're making the right call. And this is a very sketchy team to use because Jango starts in damage meter, and you can time out if you don't play it right. Because you can see they haven't taken a turn, and we have already killed basically 3 of their characters. Yeah, we had 3 of their characters dead before they took a turn. So this is really starting to look like timeout. So what we have to do here, and this is a little weird and a little sketchy, but we essentially let extortion spread. We do this intentionally so that when they land extortion on us, the enemy team gets more speed, or at least we get decreased speed, so in theory they get increased speed, so that Django will eventually come out of his damage immunity and we won't just get stuck behind him. So we do land the stun there on Nute. I think we do kill him once, but yeah, extortion is now spread to 3 different characters, and you see Django's still not really coming out. Finally comes out after extortion is on 4 characters, so by this point it's super sketch. But we do make sure to kill him. So that's just Nute, and then we start towards the very end here. We start to cleanse the extortion. I'm really glad this worked out, and we didn't get screwed going in between. We left a really relic out of its mind nice sister team down, and this it's an older team. A lot of people don't leave it down just because it's countered by so many things pretty easily. So we went ahead and brought in our Empire. I didn't want to throw troopers against it. We had better plans for our troopers. We went ahead and brought this in here, but there's really not a lot to say here. We have a lot of damage. We have a lot of control. We don't have a lot of survivability. So that part of this match was a little sketchy. The fact that we really don't have any survivability, like if they get their big plague hit off, this goes south. So we were just trying to control them as best we could. Didn't love the ability to block on Daka, actually. That was kind of bad because her stunning 2 pivotal characters is not good. Yeah, we tried to control the damage dealers, and then we fractured Daka. And then from there, at that point on, as soon as Daka was fractured, this was just game over. Because now we have absolute complete control with Mara Jade finally taking turns and Machine Gun Palp doing things. That was pretty cool. Yeah, ends up being super good banners here. Doesn't end up being that big of a deal. But it was a little sketchy there at the very beginning. I think we're just trying to see who has protection to see who we need to give it back to. Over there with Thrawn. Trying to play banner recovery here. We knew he took a lot for offense, so we were trying to be cautious on banners. Because he only set 2 Galactic Legends, which he had 4. He did drop the initial battle on our Mon Mothma team, which I'm pretty sure was Jawas. Well, I'll have to wait for the history. That'll be posted in the server for sure if it was. Probably even if it isn't. Yeah, so we got through that team, and then we start going after fleets early. And the reason why we go after fleets early, actually, I'll explain that in a minute. We should be explaining this fight. So we're taking the TIE Interceptor in against his Negotiator TIE Bomber. And this is something that, shout out to Tom, who explained to us in the very beginning. Full disclaimer, though, I do not know this fleet at all. Like, probably the first 5 or 6 moves were entirely explained to me on stream a few times. We tested an arena, like up until about here. We kind of knew what we were doing. But then we made a huge misplay here. We were supposed to go after a character with Ruthless Advantage or whatever with our Interceptor, and instead we shot someone else, and that threw the entire match in the toilet. Now General Anakin is in stealth, we can't get to him, and we're essentially just screwed here. I didn't know that at the time. I thought things were still going fine, just because, again, I don't know this fleet. I don't really know it that well. We're trying to get target lock on everyone. And then pretty much the exact thing that happened that you don't want to happen with Negotiator happened. Right when they're really low, they get Undying Loyalty again. And now that they're full of debuffs and starting to get low again, who do they bring in but Plo? So this is just pretty much a wasted match. Like completely wasted ship, completely on a misplay on my part. I just didn't play it right. And I see that we're pretty close to Thrawn's ultimate here. So we do try to bring in TIE Fighter Pilot just to see if we can get the ult off and at least get a ship out. Because if we can at least get a ship out, then maybe we'll be better off when we try to clean it up with something else. But yeah, this was a huge misplay. The beginning of this part went very well. We decided to go with TIE Bomber, just get him out of there if we had to clean it up with Rebels, which wasn't sure if we were going to have to do that or not. So got TIE Bomber out, very depressing. We took in First Order, and we don't start with the Bomber because we don't have him 5 stars, so he won't be able to start really taunting. So just took in our standard counter. We knew that they just wasted their AoE before, so we figured we'd be pretty fine here. And this kind of does suck. They put having crit immunity it's really, really good. Looking back, I'm thinking if we should have probably cleared that off in General Anakin at the beginning, just so we start critting him. Yeah, so we're at this point, we're just trying to get things going. We're trying to keep control before our taunting tank gets out there. Trying to hit as many of them as we can, keep them stunned. Yeah, you can just see the minimal, ridiculously low amount of damage that we're doing. We are able to hunt General Anakin, which is really nice. We're able to get rid of that so we don't constantly keep getting retribution. This is going pretty well. With them starting with things on cooldowns, we're able to control them to a fairly well extent. And then Plo is really, really nice and makes Jedi Knight Anakin taunt. I didn't know Plo was that nice. At this point, we're trying to debate what we're going to do, and we just end up deciding to take Anti-Echelon because we're able to use a move with him, which means we can have him taunt or at least stealth everyone else first. That way he can actually do what he's supposed to do. So, able to do that. And I don't know his hit that well either, but you can see our mass attack did like no damage there. The Jedi Anakin. Luckily, we've got the big hit with Silencer, and nothing else mattered. Yeah, the reason why this time we decided to do ships before we did anything else was because I wanted to wait to the last minute because we were considering taking our C versus a BAM dash team, which we were looking at things and we were seeing was pretty sketch, and he had already dropped the battle. So I just really wanted to try out to see, you know, kind of where the counter stands. But at the same time, I didn't want to do it if it was going to risk the entire match. So I want to see how we did on fleet, because if we could one-shot fleets, that meant it would be pretty much totally good to do. So we did. So that was the plan behind that, so that we could eventually use C versus BAM without having to worry about banners. So we went ahead and took in our Executor versus Rebels, and this is actually just really sketchy because I said this on stream, but Rebels are like the ultimate RNG fleet on both sides of the field. If Millennium Falcon decides to assist every single time, they do really stinking well. If he assists none of the time, then they do very, very poorly. And you can see here, multiple turns in a row, he's getting a lot of assists. He's getting a whole lot of assists. But luckily, we're able to kill all the ads rather quickly. And then also, I don't know if this next move was a mistake. But yeah, so things are going moderately okay here. We're able to remove the dodgy buff that Millennium Falcon has. I don't know the name of. And then we're like, oh, we can just go ahead and kill Millennium Falcon. And then this happens where we have him marked. We're able to hit him, but he just keeps healing. And I'm starting to regret my decision. Maybe it would have been better to take out one of the weaker ones, but we end up getting him down. So that's, obviously this works very well. Executor's vastly overpowered. But that being said, it didn't always feel 100% comfortable. So actually went for the AoE. Guess it was less satisfying, but we got 70 banners there. We're going to take in our Troopers versus Maul. Really nothing to say here. They don't have BAM, so there's absolutely no risk at all. And I think even some of these Mandalorians are like tier 12. So it's a little sketchy, but we just have so much turn meter, and we do more than enough damage to be able to rip through everyone. So we were able to get Candy down instantly. Yeah, there's really not, we do avoid our AoEs just so we don't get hit from Maul, and Maul hits someone who has a debuff, and then Canderous gets turn meter, which I guess at this point we probably could have, but I was looking at our turn meter, and we had enough turn meter to keep looping around without having to AoE anyone. We do try to daze Maul, and we don't get it, which is super annoying, because I don't think that's specific to light side. It might be specific to light side, but like we had so much potency at this point. We got through that, and then we decided to take C in versus this Dash BAM team. And this team is arguably pretty good. He's got an R8 BAM modded for really well for offense, and I think everyone else here is like R5 and up. So there's a lot of damage on their part. One thing that I was really dumb about is I didn't realize that Queel's shock was a 3-turn shock on a 2-turn cooldown, which, you know, do the math there, you're never not going to be stunned, or you're never not going to be shocked, which is very, very sketchy for a character that needs to have a lot of health steal. So we go ahead and mark up the 2 characters that are going to crit the most in the very beginning. And then I'm like, okay, let's just go ahead and not get the shock off. We'll go ahead and relink. That'll give us a few turns. Lo and behold, I didn't get rid of the shock because it's a 3-turn shock. So this starts to get really sketchy really fast. Luckily, we make the very right call to boost the protection before going into ultimate, because shock doesn't block protection, it only blocks health. If we wouldn't have done this, it would have drastically changed the way this goes. So we sit here and we think about it for a minute. We end up pulling the trigger on shock because our protection is pretty large by this point, after stealing as much as we have from both IG as well as Dash. We get our ult here, and we're like, oh, things will be fine now that we get our ult. So we get our ult, everyone goes down, whatever. And looking back, I should have just killed Dash there, actually. That was really dumb as well, instead of relinking. We go to relink, And before that happens, they're able to get the taunt up, and we don't have a dispel. So we're now stuck behind that. And because the shock, for reasons we've explained already, it's not going away ever. So we're just kind of stuck here now with this slowly being killed, and there's really nothing we can do about it. We double check to make sure the basic here can't be evaded, and it can't be. It's written at the very end, so this takes a second. Then we start going after Dash because we had the other two links, but I'm getting real nervous. Like, this is super low health. But we do end up surviving it, and we're able to shock them and get them out of there. And that's really all she wrote. So, this is the final board, which is... I'm not really quite sure what to think about it. With our fail up here... we failed. So I think he had a chance. He had a chance if he would have attacked more, which he didn't. But I don't know if this was a time constraint thing where he just didn't have enough time to go back in. He typically doesn't do this, though. Like, I looked over his history and I couldn't find anything, at least from the last 2 weeks, where he just didn't do this. But I wonder if he was just really ticked off that something lost here. Because if we did the math after this, he had to do 6 banners better than the softmax, which pretty much means that he needed to get 6. He needed to undersize a lot of fights. And he didn't see it, so this probably didn't affect his judgment. But like, we had some teams that were really not easy to get banners on, especially in the back wall here. So I'll take it. I mean, he at least got his participation trophy, so that was nice. But yeah, so we won that one. We're on to the next one here soon. So hope you enjoyed the battles. Remember to like and subscribe, and as always, stay awesome.